Year old veteran and officer. Listen, man, he got a little bit more than what he was bargaining for. Take a listen to this.
Let's just keep the volume down here. So I understand, and listen,
I'm
I
looking
don't
at
disagree.
3 dead cops this week,
Sheriff,
and I'm
if you'll
looking at
just-
5
if you'll just
last year. You
please.
trying to tell me to keep it down?
Just please, if you will just please, we can keep it civil. So, because the message to people at home, I'm sure you want, is one of civility.
I wish, Don, I wish you
would
had
like to
that
have-
message
I would
of
like
civility
to have a conversation
toward
with
this
you.
hateful ideology, these purveyors of.
Oh boy, it gets better. It only gets better. Hello, friends. Welcome once again to Look and Live. You're here with Pastor James Devallon, and this is another reaction video. Make sure you like and subscribe to the page. Click the bell icon for more of my notification uploads. Comment below. Share your thought and perspective with me. Without further ado, let's get into this video. This interview here is worth listening to because it was just, oh man, Don Levin was he was placed in a very difficult position. I don't think he was ready for this. He did not see that one coming. So how about we take a listen to this? I'm gonna let them do their thing here, and then we share some thoughts and perspective at the end.
3 officers dead, 3 wounded in Baton Rouge. A really tough day for Baton Rouge and for the country, really. Here to talk about how to keep our police safe is Sheriff David Clark of Milwaukee County, Wisconsin. He is going to be speaking at the Republican convention tomorrow night. Sheriff, thank you very much for that horrific day. I spoke to the heads of the sheriff department, the police department, and the state police down there, and they told us how their hearts were reeling. Their message is peace and coming together in the country. What's your message?
You don't believe that for 1 minute, do you?
That their message is?
Yeah.
That's what they said to me.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe them. Of
Any
course I believe them
protests
when they say
over
that.
the deaths of these cops today in Baton Rouge?
I don't know that. I don't know that.
Any riots or protests over the police officers in Dallas, Texas?
What are you asking?
Oh gosh,
It's a pretty simple question.
yes it
I
is.
asked you if what's your message to the people. Their message is one of peace. What is your message?
My message has been clear from day one 2 years ago. This anti-cop sentiment from this hateful ideology called Black Lives Matter has fueled this rage against the American police officer. I predicted this 2 years ago. So what I want to know,
Okay, Sheriff.
do I want to
With all
know?
due respect, do you know that this was because of that? Do we
Yes,
know
I
that
do.
As a law enforcement officer?
I've been watching this for 2 years. I predicted this. This anti-police rhetoric sweeping the country has turned out some hateful things inside of people that are now playing themselves out on the American police officer. I want to know, with all of the black-on-black violence in the United States of America, by the way, when the tragedies happened in Louisiana and Minnesota, you know that 21 black people were murdered across the United States? Was there any reporting on
a
that?
black officer who was killed today. But
Was there any reporting on that?
Sheriff, please.
Good question.
Let's just keep.
Good
the
question.
volume down here. So I understand, and listen, I don't.
I'm
I
looking
don't
at
disagree.
3 dead cops this week,
Sheriff,
and
if
I'm
you'll
looking at
just-
5
if you'll
last
just
year. You
please.
trying to tell me to keep it down?
Just please, if you'll just please, we can keep it civil. So, because the message to people at home, I'm sure you want, is one of civility.
I wish, Don, I wish you
would
had
like to
that.
have-
Don Lemon was not ready for this level of retaliation and correction and sharp rebukes because, again, the Black Lives Matter movement have been calling for the defunding of police and creating so much more animosity and hatred in the hearts of civilians toward police, which we don't hear much riotings about, which is true. So while they're saying we come in the name of peace, peaceful protests, but they were tearing down the community, and that was considered, what do you refer to that? Just rage and anger. They're just saying they're angry and so on. Why is that okay? If murder is wrong, murder is wrong. Tearing down our communities where it's never okay. I'm really happy with this cops challenging Don Lemon here, rightfully so.
message of
like
civility
to have a conversation
toward
with
this
you.
hateful ideology, these purveyors
You
of
don't
hate.
know what my message is.
That's
what I
what
want
they
to say
do.
to you is,
These
if you'll
people
let me get
preach
it, are you going to let me get a
vile
word
and
in?
virtue
We'll be right
in the
back.
name
We're
of
going to go to break,
hate.
and we'll be right back. All we're going to do is have a
You
conversation.
need a break,
I can't
all
have a
right.
conversation with you if we're both talking at the same time. What it sounds like to me is that you're accusing me of violence and supporting something, a narrative that I'm not necessarily in support of. And if that's what you're accusing me of violence, then you can leave. That's not true. I don't support violence of any type against police officers, against anyone. So if you're accusing me of that, then you're welcome to leave. But if you want to have a conversation, I am more than willing to welcome a conversation with you. I don't disagree with you about there is a narrative across the country that could be harming police officers. But we don't know right now, as someone who's in law enforcement, if that was the actual cause of it. Go ahead.
Let me ask you this. Do we know that generally the American law enforcement officers are racist? Do we know this?
No, we don't.
Go on.
I ask a question.
I'm asking.
Do I know American general law enforcement are
Yeah.
racist?
Yeah,
I don't
that's-
think anyone is accusing. If you're insinuating that people are accusing or saying that law
Insinuating.
enforcement across this country as a whole are racist, then your assumption is wrong.
First of all, this whole anti-police rhetoric is based on a lie.
There we go.
There is no data, and you know this. There is no data, there is no research that proves any of that nonsense. None. Even
You'd have to be more specific about what data and what nonsense you're talking about.
that law enforcement officers treat black males different than white males in policing in these urban
There
centers.
is data that's.
There is not data.
No. The president spoke about it. Cedric Alexander,
The
who is a law
president has
enforcement
been
officer.
lying about it. He said it again the other day when he said black males are 2 times more likely to be shot by a law enforcement officer than white males. Don, that is a lie.
That is not a lie.
It is a lie.
Yes.
Show me.
Research.
Show me.
The research
Show
that
it to me then.
we have from the Washington Post.
Mm-hmm.
That
The Washington
facilitated a
Post
study.
debunked
There's
that
also
nonsense.
There's also research.
He also said this,
Sheriff,
Don.
There's also research.
He
from
continues.
A Harvard professor that also showed that black people are treated more aggressively by police officers.
No, you are
than other people.
wrong in your interpretation of that Harvard study. because
It's
I
totally
read the
wrong.
study.
Totally
That's
wrong.
Not what he said. He said he was surprised to find
He was
that
surprised to find that in shootings.
I've read that study too. I mean, I've listened to a whole video about it by Larry Elder. That officer is correct. That study actually proves that more whites are at a much bigger risk of being shot by police than blacks are. And also, it shows that police are more afraid of shooting a black man just so that they're not styled as racist. Uh, is the exact opposite of what the narrative is. So the police officer is 100% correct. I know Don Lemon is trying to push back against this, but it's not working out for him very well.
Of the most severe in shootings that he found no evidence that there was a difference. Also, it should be noted that that study was a very small sampling of police departments across the country. Many people did not find it credible, but it is also interesting that in that research, he found that blacks were treated differently when it came to aggressive policing, but for the most egregious shootings, he found no difference. That's what that study showed.
Well, based on what? Just generally? Are we talking about high crime areas?
talking about
Are we talking
10
about
police
police
departments
officers
across
being
the
under attack?
Yeah.
Because let's go back to where this whole thing started in Ferguson, Missouri. The lie
With
was
all due
hands up,
respect, you're
don't
lumping
shoot.
a whole bunch of things into one. If we
Okay?
can do one specific
That's
thing
where
and
this
stick to
whole
it,
phony movement
we'll get to
started.
it.
It started out as hands
You're
up,
talking
don't
about
shoot.
Black Lives Matter.
Right.
Okay. So if you want to if you would need to speak to someone who is a member of Black Lives Matter about whether they have perpetrated a fraud on the American people. That's up to Black Lives Matter. That's not me. I'm neither a member of Black Lives Matter, I'm neither a supporter or someone who doesn't support them. I simply report on Black Lives Matter.
Do you condemn the anti-police rhetoric
Good question.
coming from this hateful ideology?
As a journalist sitting here on television, I don't have to condemn anyone, anything.
That-
That is something that
Well,
you
I
should
do.
ask.
That's political hardwash. That you see, he's talking like a politician again. This is the thing. You cannot say you don't have to condemn anything, but you can the these people condemn stuff all the time. They call out stuff all the time. They condemn the president. They condemn any Republicans that they have an issue with. They condemn white supremacists. And you say you can't condemn the police rhetoric that's calling for defunding. Oh, come on, man. That's just pure hypocrisy. Don't play with me. Like, we're listening, right?
Well, I
Other
do.
people around the country,
I
that it's
condemn
their
them
jobs to condemn
just
that.
like I condemn the
Just report
hateful
the fact.
ideology out of groups like the KKK.
Yeah.
All right?
That's exactly correct.
I condemn it.
Yeah.
There is no place
That's
in
right.
American discourse for that sort of vile, vitriolic hate coming out of this ideology.
Nope.
This has fueled and fanned the flames of this anger toward the American police officer. There's only one group in America, one time, that truly cares about the lives of black people in these urban ghettos. And it's the American police officer who goes down there on a daily basis,
Yep.
puts their life on the line to protect who? Black people. So when you say we just want to have a
put their lives on the
conversation,
line to affect-
let's
to protect
have a
all people.
conversation about the black on black crime, which kills more black males,
Yep.
which is more of a threat to any black male in the United States
Yep.
than a law enforcement officer.
Sheriff. Yes, that's a different conversation.
No,
We
it
can
is
walk and chew gum
not.
at the
It
same
is
time.
not.
There-
It is part of what you're talking about. Why is he trying to? That's called gaslighting. Isn't that what it's called? The cops is on fire. He's telling truth right now. But Don Lemon is trying to play this game as if this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. He's trying to make him look foolish. And that's the thing. Like, the man is telling you honestly how he feels about how police are being treated. He's offended. He's hurt. But instead of trying to understand where the man is coming from, no, we're just trying to have another conversation about things that I want to talk about. I don't care about what's going on with you guys. We have other things in mind. Do you see the level of divisiveness and wickedness and just partiality and just, yeah, he's just, he lacks that level of understanding to properly talk to this man. I think I'm so glad that this cop is just frustrated enough to let him see, I'm not happy with you, what you guys are talking about. You guys are fanning the flame. You're fanning the flame, and policemen are dying all over the place, and you're not concerned with that.
There's an issue when it comes to violence. Black on black crime, or black, it's crime. White people kill white people, tend to kill white people.
You know,
Black
here we
people
go.
tend to
Not
kill black
in the
people.
numbers.
Not in the same numbers, buddy.
Not in the
okay,
numbers.
That's fine, but that's a different
I don't care
conversation.
who white
That is
people
a
are killing.
different conversation than police brutality, and we're not having that conversation right now.
What
And
police-
again, I want to be very
Let me
clear
ask
with
you
you. I
this.
condemn all violence of any type.
You're generalizing. The question was very specific. Stop generalizing. He asked you, can you condemn police defunding the police rhetoric coming from Black Lives Matter? You just bypassed that. That was your opportunity. You messed up. But to say I condemn all kind of violence everywhere, well, what are you talking about? Which one are you talking about? You gotta be more specific.
Just for the record.
Was the situation between Mike Brown and Darren Wilson, was that police brutality?
But we're not talking about Mike
Yes
Brown
or
and
no?
You see what he's doing? You see what he's doing? These are good questions. Why you keep evading the questions, Don Lemon? This is the reason why I don't watch CNN. This is exactly why. It's hogwash. It's garbage. It's nonsense. It's not even common sense. It's word salad. Like my friend Darth Vader will say, it's a mind suit. They saying a whole lot of things, but they really aren't saying nothing.
No.
Darren Wilson.
I am.
No, if you're asking me what the Justice Department showed, the Justice Department showed that it exonerated off Darren
Good.
Wilson,
Good
and
job.
that the hands up, don't shoot narrative was a false narrative. That has been reported by
And
CNN
that
and by others.
was another phony report.
What does that
was
have to
debunked.
do with Baton Rouge,
All right,
Louisiana?
because when you take
What
in
does that have
when
to
you
do
take
with
in
Baton Rouge, Louisiana?
rates of involvement in violent crime and crime in general, but violent crime, you're going to see that black males are overrepresented.
Yep.
Yeah.
Overrepresented
Yep.
in terms of being involved in violent crime. That's going to mean more
Sheriff.
arrests. That's going to mean more people going to prison. This stuff has already been debunked.
Sheriff,
Yep.
That's a different conversation.
Oh, stop.
One that many people
every
don't-
time
and one that
you
many-
don't have a response to something I say,
not
you
that
say
it's-
it's
it's not
a
that-
different
There we go. He called them out on it. I like that. Every time you don't have a response to something I say, it's a different conversation. Because you want to talk about what you want to talk about, but the issues, the elephant in the room, you trying to ignore that. I love this Sharif, this cop. He has the balls to call him out.
Every
One that
time,
many people
every
don't-
time
and one that
you
many-
don't have a response to something I
It's
say,
not
you
that,
say
it's
it's a
not
different
that I don't have a
conversation.
response to you. Is that we're having two different conversations. I'm talking about, I'm asking the questions here. You're answering the questions by asking questions about some other subject that we're not discussing.
We're
That
talking
is
about
not a
this hateful
conversation.
ideology called Black Lives Matter. When you say
Yeah,
you're not
that's
a
correct.
member, you can't be a member. It's not an organization.
That's
There's no
what,
structure.
That's what
It
you're
is
talking
an
about. Listen, I understand, and I
ideology,
understand,
and it is a
and I
hateful
understand that you're very.
ideology.
I understand it's a.
There is an organization to it, but it's not properly being managed. That's why the money has been so abused by these women at the top. But it is an ideology as well. It is an ideology. It's both an organization and ideology, but the organization itself is corrupt. The ideology on itself might not be wrong, but it wasn't wrong to start with, but it's completely wrong now. But again, it's just corruption. It's corruption. It's nothing but communism and Marxism. That's what it is.
That's what
It
you're
is
talking
an
about. Listen, I understand, and I
ideology, and it
understand,
is a
and I
hateful
understand that you're very.
ideology.
I understand it's a very
These
stressful time for you.
individuals,
And Sheriff, we appreciate you coming on.
they preach
Thank you.
vile and vitriol in the name of virtue.
Yeah, thank you, Sheriff. We appreciate it.
Don Lemon got more than what he was bargaining for. I appreciate the boldness of this cop. He did not back down from making his points known. Um, but again, I think a lot of police, unfortunately, have been looked at, and to a large degree, there are some bad ones among the bunch, and that's true for all cases. There are bad ministers. There are bad Christians. There are bad doctors. It's just bad there's bad people everywhere. But what you don't do is you don't accuse the entire police force. You don't defund the entire police force just because there are some of them that are bad. And I think the level of rhetoric that Don Lemon was trying to come up with, to me, it was such a turn off, because I'm like, this man is making a lot of sense here. This man is making a lot of sense, but you're ignoring his facts because you don't want to hear what he has to say. But here is the thing. This is a biblical approach on dealing with someone you have an issue with. In other words, the reason I'm using this passage is to show that you don't condemn the entire group. You address the wrong that was done to you with that individual alone. For example, the Bible says, if your brother sin against you, right? If thy brother shall trespass against thee, go tell him in his fault alone between thee and him. And if he shall hear thee, that has gained thy brother. This is the first step. Now, this works better in a church setting, okay? But you can see the point that God is making here when you're looking at it generally. So the person who's done wrong to you, you go to the person directly. So you don't do a group thinking, you don't condemn the entire individual or the entire camp, the entire police force because of the wrong cop that has addressed. So the one black man who supposedly felt abused by the one cop, we need to address that cop. That's the point. That cop in itself needs to be held accountable on an individual account. We don't condemn the entire police force and get rid of them. Now, there is the Ferguson effect, there is the George Floyd effect, where these cops are not helping out as much. And the people who suffer the most from defunding the police by Black Lives Matter are Black people. Black people suffer the most, okay? Others always suffered, but Black people the most. We experience the suffering. So, again, like the Bible says, go to your brother one-on-one and make it known. If that doesn't work, it tells you to take another person with you. You take another person with you and you address the matter. If that doesn't work, then you go to the church, which is, in a sense, is like there's this order one-on-one. Doesn't work, two people, and then you broaden your scope to bring about positive change. And the goal is to heal. It's not to kill. The goal is not to defund. The goal is to come to a place where we are working together. If this was applied in the setting of what we're talking about with these social issues, I think our world would be a much better place. But anyway, do me a favor, like and subscribe to the page, click the bell icon for more. Comment below, share a thought perspective with me. Thank you so very much. Tell me what you think about this. Where do you take your stand concerning this matter? Until next time, and as always, remember to look unto Jesus, to live by faith. Have a good one. Bye.